Hey everybody, Dr. Shook here. I hope you're doing well today. Today what I want to talk to you about is the third pattern of hypothyroidism that I commonly see in practice. So this pattern is actually called thyroid underconversion, okay? So let me kind of walk you through how things are supposed to work. Then we'll talk about how they break down. We'll talk about some of the causes, and we'll talk about what labs might look like, okay? So first of all, you guys, if you follow me at all, you know the story, right? The entire process of thyroid hormone manufacturing begins in the brain. The hypothalamus, central structure in the brain, makes TRH, which is thyroid releasing hormone. TRH stimulates the pituitary gland to make TSH. Remember, TSH is the hormone that is most commonly checked. It's usually the only one that is checked to screen for thyroid dysfunction. TSH stimulates the thyroid production of T4 and T3, your primary thyroid hormones. 93% of the T4 of your thyroid hormone is T4 produced by the gland. 7% is T3. T3 is the physiologically most active hormone that stimulates the cellular function. So with this T4, it has to be converted. Now what we're going to talk about primarily is the conversion that occurs in the liver, which is the majority of T4 to T3 conversion. Okay? Now it does occur in the GI tract. It does occur some on a very much lower scale in peripheral tissues like the heart and some of the other tissues of the body. Okay, that there are enzymes there where the conversion will occur. But in the majority of it's going to occur and be converted in the liver, T4 to T3. Now obviously this is thyroid under conversion, and I've got a red X drawn through it. So T4 to T3 is poor conversion with this pattern. So what happens is that you'll see that on labs it can look like this. The person's TSH could be normal. So this is one of the reasons that this pattern is very, very frequently missed. Because if the doctor's just looking at TSH, they don't realize that it's actually there's low T3 that's the culprit here. Now you gotta ask why, and then we'll talk about the causes, which are right here behind me in a second. But the TSH looks normal. The total T4 looks normal. Because remember now T4, right? The quantity, the total quantity is fine. But what ends up happening is that it's not converting to T3, which is the physiologically active hormone. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to have stimulation of the cells and the proteomic response, the stimulation and drive of the metabolism, and which every single cell in the body, remember, every single cell in the body requires thyroid hormone to function, to drive the cellular metabolism. It's a critical component to overall health of every single cell in your body, so it's critical. So T4 is normal. So the doctor just looks at TSH and says, well, you know, I don't know what's wrong. It's not your thyroid, right? So, you know, anyway, T4 is normal. T3 is typically low because you're having poor conversion of T4 to T3. Free T3 is also would be low if it were checked. But is this checked in most cases? No, it's not. And so even if it is low, what's the doctor going to do? Even if they do check these things, right? What's the typical thing you're going to do? Well, your T3 is low. Let's give you some T3. And you know, so sometimes they'll prescribe like Cytomel or some of these other medications, which can be very, very helpful and beneficial to people. But the question that I want you guys to always ask is, why? Why is T3 low? Why am I taking a hormone or you know, just to boost T3? Why is my body not converting T4 to T3? And a lot of times the doctors, I don't know if they're not aware of this, that there's a poor conversion process that's occurring, or if they're, a lot of times what happens is they get a number, they look to see if the tools that they have in their toolbox, which are medications, fit that pattern, that problem that you're coming to them asking for help for. You know, you're asking them to help you with that problem. So they take the tools in their toolbox and they match it with the problem. So low T3, that means we can give you T3. I mean, that's one of the possibilities. So the poor conversion process needs to be considered. Why is it occurring? So let's talk about that, right? Because all these things are going on. So let's talk about the things that drive this poor conversion process. All right. So let's look here. These are some of the common causes that we'll see drive poor thyroid conversion T4 to T3. So one of the most common things is chronic adrenal gland stress. So the adrenal glands, you know, they sit on top of the kidneys. They produce hormones called catecholamines. One of those, and the primary hormone that you're going to see secreted there is going to be cortisol, that's your stress hormone. So if you have chronic adrenal stress. Now, adrenal stress typically comes from three things. It typically comes from chemical stress, physical stress, which can be physical pain, can stimulate a stress response, and emotional stresses, right? So anything that drives an emotional stressor for a long period of time, physical pain for a long period of time, chemical stress for a long period of time. So what are chemical stressors, right? Well, chronic inflammation will drive a stress response. Your body will produce more cortisol. Chronic inflammation and infections, chronic inflammation and infections kind of go hand in hand. The infection will drive inflammation. The inflammation, what the inflammation really does is it can drive cortisol production, but it also can degrade and break down the cell membranes. So every cell in your body has, like if you remember from school, there's a cell wall. The wall is kind of like, if you can look at it 3 dimensions, the cell's like a bubble, right? So the entire outside is a wall, and that is made of lipids or fats. And so what happens with chronic inflammation is that it damages the cell wall, damages the lipids. And it causes a lot of problems with cellular communication that can also affect conversion of T4 to T3. So chronically elevated cortisol will suppress T4 to T3 conversion. Inflammation working through another mechanism. Inflammation actually can drive cortisol, but it also works through this through this mechanism of this lipid peroxidation, this process of breaking down the cell wall or making the cell wall less efficient, can hamper T4 to T3 and impair T3 to T4 conversion. And on top of this, you have to have adequate vitamins and minerals and nutrients required to make this conversion process. You can't be low in iron. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can come into play here, but these are probably the 2 most common things that we see drive this process or this poor conversion. So I hope that makes sense. And so what do you think the logical approach to this problem would be? What do you think? How would this best be approached? I mean, it's really a decision that you have to make. You know, my personal opinion, and when I talk to most people is, well, is this happening? If this is happening, why? And let's address this so that this gets better, right? So that I have better conversion. Other people would say, well, let's just give thyroid hormone replacement, T3. And you know what? I'm not saying that T3 wouldn't be helpful, because it might be helpful. But what if this is occurring? Could we improve this process and maybe there not be a need for medication? I'll tell you, this is a pattern that I see on blood work, and I see people present with, that we can very often support nutritionally and really significantly help them. So just want you guys to be more aware that it's not just the amount of hormone that you have, it's not just your TSH level, the rest of the physiology has to be considered, right? So I hope this helps you guys out. I really appreciate you. If you would, share this information with other people so that they can be aware of this. There are so many people that are suffering and that have no clue what's going on or where to start, or that there can be anything other than just, you know, their TSH. They really need some help, and they need someone to kind of walk them through them and teach them. And that's what I'm trying to do, trying to help people better understand this. So I appreciate you guys a lot. If there's anything that I can do for you, let us know. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, and we'll do everything that we can to help you guys out. But I appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.